Hi, everyone. I'm here with Candy Campbell. She is the author of Improv to Improve Healthcare, a system for creating problem solving. And I had the privilege, Candy. First of all, welcome. Good
Thank
morning.
you.
Happy Friday.
Nice to
We're
be
live
with
on
you.
we're live on Facebook and YouTube right now, and we had a lot of fun working on your book. But before we get to the process of the audiobook piece, talk a little bit about, first of all, you're an unusual case for us as a production company because you actually are a voiceover actress and performer. So the way I describe you when I talk to people is you wrote a book that is this, it's really the confluence of a lot of things: the healthcare, the performance, and not at all, least of all, is the improvisation that you're an expert in. So talk about how you came to write the book this way. The format is unusual.
Well, Dave, like a lot of the projects that I do, I just have to laugh. It wasn't my idea.
Oh, well, a lot of good ideas are not my idea. That's for sure, too.
No, I had been doing a lot, like you say, in the performance realm. And when I came out with the book, I talked it up to different people. And because I'm an actor, everybody was saying, oh, well, of course you're going to do an audiobook. And I'm like, okay, I have read audiobooks and why not? And the biggest question, though, the biggest question was, how in the world am I going to do this myself? I know how much hard work it is to edit a book, and it's not my sweet spot. It's not my skill set. So I was very happy to meet you.
Oh, thank you for that. Well, yeah, no, and likewise, of course. I really enjoyed the process of working with you, and the process of working with you on the. Well, let's talk a little bit about the content. What were you trying to say to the world, healthcare professionals, HR people? What was the message you were really trying to get at with this book? Because that's really, the impetus of the work, right?
It is. It is. The sticking point for me is that as a leader in healthcare, as soon as I started in on my master's, even before, I recognized that the problems in healthcare are that we have known for a long, long time that we're making a lot of mistakes, critical mistakes, that cause people to lose the wrong limb or just die when they go to the hospital. And it's so devastating to think that the cumulative value in statistical parlance is that a 747 is crashing every day, and none of it's in the headlines. It would be, it was 747 crashing. It would be in the headlines. But now, unfortunately, since about 2013, statistics have come out that are more than the original Institute of Medicine statistics. We know that the numbers are variable, and they could very well be 2 or 3 or even 4 times as many. And then it seems so simple that despite all the money and all the projects that they have come up with to try and circumvent the problems exist. And having been an actor and improv teacher since 1995, I knew, having worked with Silicon Valley folks, how impactful this kind of work really can be in terms of relationship building, which makes a creative space, which allows to problem solve, which allows innovation. Lots of great things can happen.
And you've learned through your teaching and being involved with improvised theater that there are ways to communicate that could greatly improve or minimize to some extent the errors in communication that cause these terrible events that happen in hospitals because of, the error rate is very high, as you pointed out. So I recall it's really about the interpersonal communications. The book gets into how we communicate in terms of the quality and making assumptions. I mean, there's some themes here that I recall from working with you and doing the recording with you that that you highlight and in an effort to really minimize error due to lack of communication or ineffective communication. What are some of the, give us one example, if you would, of a classic case where a medical team might have miscommunicated. And there are many examples in the book, but if we could just talk about one that might be cool for the live here. Yeah.
Well, as a leader in healthcare, I was privy to certain information in terms of quality and safety. And so one case that came across was when a nurse in the NICU, the neonatal intensive care, was caring for a very, very tiny baby. And she did everything right according to policy and procedure. And when the baby needed some help, middle of the night, she called the doctor, worked with a respiratory therapist, got the tests in, got the results in, set up for the procedure. Everything was great and in a timely manner. But the thing that was the problem was that because she and the physician who was there that night didn't really have any kind of relationship at all. And in terms of her later talk why this might have happened, she admitted that she maybe, because she didn't know him, was afraid to talk to him. And when she just had a question, she wasn't sure about which side that they were operating on.
Oh my gosh.
And because, the x-ray had been flipped, and it's just a series, a domino effect of little mistakes. Now, had she had the relationship with him to actually just ask the question, not to interrupt in a assertively mean or outlandish way, but just to question when this happened, then it wouldn't have been so terrible for the patient. And she regretted it later. And he was very upset because as nurses, we are entitled, and it is, it is imperative that we do speak up. And yet, because of so many other factors, some people call it the nurse-doctor game, that have been forever around healthcare, nurses, even though we're probably, many more times, let's say 10 to 1, there's in hospitals, there are many more nurses than doctors, but doctors run the show. The buck stops there. They have more training. There's no question about that. And so on the other hand, because the nurses are there all the time, especially in an intensive care situation with the patient, or at least more often if it's not intensive care, then they have the responsibility to just be that extra pair of eyes and that extra voice for the patient. And had she spoken up, it just wouldn't have happened.
And there's an emotional content to all of this. I remember from the examples, as you're jogging my memory from the book itself, the fear because of the hierarchy in hospitals, the doctor-nurse relationship, some of those things really come into play, end up compromising the care of the patient, sometimes resulting in catastrophic results. So it's just powerful work you're doing. So switching gears a little bit, the process of recording you was really fascinating. And you are a standout case for me at Auto Vita Studios because you were improvising quite a bit of the script. Just to tell those who are watching and listening, most audiobook processes in terms of the production is you're reading the manuscript pretty much verbatim. There may be a word or a shift or this or that, and we let it go because the meaning is still, it's there, it's coherent, and it still makes sense. But in your case, you really gave yourself a creative license to almost work as though the manuscript were bullet points. Not an easy thing to do on the fly, by the way.
I'm a longtime speaker, and I know the subject pretty well. So it was, for me, the fact that you were willing to try it. Because, I had spoken to some other people who do produce these things. Yeah. And they told me the way it went. And I kept saying, well, I'm thinking of something a little bit different. And they're like, oh, well, you don't want to do that.
So they didn't want to explore into the unknown. Well, I'm famous for that, for better and worse. So we took sections, and I mean, I think you had the long version. It wasn't like you were working from bullet points. I mean, you were really looking at the script and internalizing it, combining it with what you know about the field. And as you've pointed out, you've spoken about it a lot. So you've got a lot of internal, just, intuitive knowledge about it. So you sort of combine what was written with what you know, ending up in a performance that, look, we did do a considerable amount of editing and cleaning and all of that, which is just part of production anyway. But when you're getting into improvising, you are stepping into the unknown, and you're going to have more of that. But I think what we ended up with was a very truthful expression of the work, because sometimes, and you know this from being an actress, when people read, their whole mindset changes, their voice changes, the cadence, the modulation. It sounds like they're reading. They fall into this pattern of modulation with their voice, or whatever it is, a habit of some kind. But for you, this loosened it up, and it just made it just sort of more alive in a certain way. And we hope connecting with the audience in a way that's profoundly different than if you were simply just reading the material verbatim from the book. So that was cool.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
We're talking about, I was going to just flash it up. Sorry, it blocks us out. This is the way. There you are. You're peeking around. So, and I can do that too. Yes, it's opposite. So, I have to point the other way. So this is the book. I can't point. Improv to Improve Healthcare: A System for Creative Problem Solving. And so much of this, as we've talked about today, is about the quality of communication in hospitals, in the medical setting, and sometimes the lack of quality, which results in really, really catastrophic results. So I'm glad that you did the book, and I'm glad and privileged to have worked with you on it. And glad you were able to do this little quick live interview with us this morning.
Well, thanks. My pleasure. I would recommend you highly to anybody who is teetering on the brink of maybe thinking of doing an audiobook. It was hecka fun. And
hecko fun. I like that. Yeah. Thanks. Candy Campbell. Once again, I'll put the cover up. Available where all audiobooks are sold. And of course, you've got the certainly a paperback and a version as well. And that's also available on Amazon, and where all fine books are sold. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you. All right.